We solved the range anxiety problem, and by the way, Tony coined that term, range anxiety. We solved that problem, and let's assume we solved the charging station on every corner problem, so people have access to the infrastructure. Don't we still have a problem? And the problem is the grid. 60% of our grid is powered by fossil fuels. Only about 70% of the grid is powered by solar technology. So all we're really doing in some ways is offboarding the generation to the grid as opposed to the fossil fuels in the car. So what do we do about that? How do we solve that problem?
So let me comment a little bit. Been involved in this space for a long time. One of the challenges that Brian raised is, can the grid even handle it? And so let's address that first, and I'll comment on a few of the other points that were made. So the grid that we know today is going through its own sort of massive revolution, evolution, restructuring, et cetera. One of the things about our grid in the U.S., and I'll speak specifically to the U.S. versus globally, is that it has surprised us in its ability to respond and be resilient. In the 50s, the grid handled, and it was a bigger load to handle electrifying our kitchens. In the 70s, they handled all of the new load when AC was installed in many, many homes. In the 90s and beyond, flat screen TVs, hot tubs, computerized devices handled that. So if you look at the latest Bloomberg New Energy Finance stuff, the incremental add to the collective grid is something that should be handled, particularly when you add solar and wind and some of these alternatives. And if you look at now the economics of solar and wind, they are better than coal, so there will be additional investment. The real challenge will be is how do you integrate that all in? We have order of magnitude of 3,000 utilities, a number of different ISOs or independent system operators. Texas is a country on their own. And then obviously some utilities like PG&E, one of my companies has sold a lot of solar-powered charging stations that are not grid connected with batteries to PG&E recently. So I think we will be able to adapt, but there's a lot of work to be done. And the really interesting thing is once you have all of the batteries that are in EVs in the system and are used 5 to 10% of the time, can you imagine the ability for them and using their storage to help support the grid, to choose what time you're charging, choose what rate you charge at, choose also when you can apply power back, either to back up your home, to power buildings and avoid demand charges, or provide resiliency to the grid, or monetize the value in that battery pack like one does when you do an Airbnb. Expensive asset, not used a lot. Yeah, when people use it, there's a little bit of wear and tear. One of the companies I work with just received authorization from Nissan, which is one of the leading OEMs to do vehicle to X or vehicle to grid, as they call it, where it doesn't void their warranty. So they even say that the wear and tear is very minimal, and you can potentially make, when your car is sitting idle, hundreds of dollars a month, which basically could pay for your lease. So those are just things to consider.
So in California, does a BEV homeowner wake up one morning, they plug in their car to charge it, and they get there in the morning and it's zero because California sucked the power out of it because of a blackout or something to avoid a blackout?
No, you can select your choice of whether you want to participate or not.
You can select.
Absolutely.
In California.
Wait a second. No. The customer doesn't say free reign to my vehicle. You can choose not to participate at all.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what happened to me. So when we had the rolling blackouts in California this year, okay, now I have solar, and of course I have a BEV. So California tells me, hey, you need to save, you need to, really cut down. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I already have solar. I'm already producing, and you're telling me I need to save. So I'm getting all these texts. Well, then I hear on the news, they're saying, hey, don't charge your BEV this weekend. And I'm like, I've got solar and a BEV, and you're telling me I have a solar and a BEV, but I can't charge my BEV this weekend. I mean, to me, that's just insanity in terms of the way. And the problem is California, again, since it's not producing its own energy, and we get most of our energy from other places, particularly lots of it from foreign countries, when we have an abundance of energy, of fossil fuel energy in California, we still do these insane things and inconvenience California homeowners.
Well, I'm glad I don't live in California, and we'll work through those issues.
Well, the first COSM conference I attended, hi George, some years ago, way back, maybe 30, 40 years ago, Peter Huber and Mark Mills were talking about reliability for the intercom industry and so forth. And they were talking about 5 nines, 6 nines reliability. Now, if your power is 99.9% reliable, that means you don't have power for 8 hours a year, and you can take it from there. And excuse me, we have to have a very, very reliable grid. And we have forces, mostly political forces, operating against reliability of the grid. And you read Meredith Angwin's book called Shorting the Grid, you'll find out just how ridiculous some of this can be. For example, you can have a solar farm out there, and what you can do is bid very low because, excuse me, because the sun is going to be shining. So you make a very low bid for making sure that you are able to put your power on the grid. And then comes time to get the power on, they don't pay you what you bid. They pay you what the highest bidder bid. I mean, that sounds silly as can be, but it's a matter of fact. Read Meredith Angwin's book, Shorting the Grid. I mean, the thing is highly political. It's highly biased in favor of solar and wind. Incidentally, I'm going to give you a couple of numbers that you might want to write down. You take a wind farm out there, you have a bunch of wind turbines, and suppose you double the size, double the diameter of a wind turbine. You get 4 times as much power. But you have to place the turbines twice as far apart in both directions, so you're using 4 times the land area. So the power per unit area turns out to be basically a constant. And it's about 5 kilowatts per acre. 12 kilowatts, 12 and a half kilowatts per hectare for those people who are in the SI system. But that's what you can get out of wind. And these are in excellent sites. We're talking about charging a battery with 120 kilowatts in a big station, in a Tesla station. You get much better power per unit area out of solar, but you only have a very limited number of hours per day when you can get it. And you talk about cheap solar electricity. Well, tell you what, can you buy 1 kilowatt hour of midnight solar electricity for $1 million? No, you cannot.
That's why we have batteries.
Well, here's an interesting statistic. If you drive for a battery, this is specific to battery electric vehicles. For every battery electric vehicle, okay, for every mile you drive a battery electric vehicle, 5 pounds of earth was moved, okay? Now, in a gasoline engine, 0.2 liters of liquid was used. So 5 pounds of earth being mined and processed versus, for every mile, versus 0.2 pounds of liquid. So think about it in terms of how much you're disturbing the environment, how much materials, all these things you're doing so that you can store in this, battery pack. And so I'm not saying that doesn't mean we shouldn't do EVs or EVs of any type, but you have to think about what is the environmental degradation that's going on as a result of building all of these, building the BEVs, and to your point, wind and solar and all these things. There is an environmental impact that people don't really think about, and obviously politicians don't think about.
For fossil fuel burning, given how much is lost in heat, that has no impact, if you will. And again, I'm an engineer. So when I look at the efficiency numbers of internal combustion engines, I say to myself, why would we do that in the future if we have domestically produced electricity that we can use and not send any young men and women to the Middle East to fight for oil?
Well, Tony, yes, and I think where the plug-in hybrids really shine is that they are basically, ICE engines are very inefficient in idling and at low speeds. The beauty of a plug-in hybrid is that you get the advantages, you get the best of both worlds. You get the electric motor is driving. When you're idling, the engine is not the ICE engine is not running. The electric motor is running. When a car takes off, so from about 0 to somewhere between 26 and 30 miles per hour, that is when the battery really shines. But then you get great efficiency, not greater efficiency, but you get great efficiency with a gasoline engine for above that. And that's where you basically will save that 60 to 70% in emissions in a plug-in hybrid, or even to a large degree, the hybrid electric vehicles relative to the BEVs.
So, Walter, remember, my team invented the plug-in hybrid, so I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. But the point is, if you're advocating plug-in hybrids, which I do as well, because you heard me say, I want customers to have all kinds of choices and let the market decide, not let the government dictate, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
so we
agreed.
do have to have battery development. Batteries will be in the system.
Absolutely.
So I'm a little bit confused about you being negative on batteries but positive on plug-in hybrids.
No, I'm not saying what I'm saying is I don't think batteries alone are the solution. I think batteries are a part of the solution.
But you've owned 2 battery electric vehicles, right?
Right, now I'm getting a plug-in hybrid, right? I'm moving to a plug-in hybrid.